I took the fucking red eye just to like make sure I'd get out of SF as soon as possible and then like make it for this recording. But I haven't slept like at all. Like I've slept like 3 hours, I think.
This is the
So
best Juanito.
this is good. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. My apologies to, whoever the fuck I piss off today. We're gonna have a great time.
Wide awake Juanito is the best Juanito. Hello everyone,
Yeah.
this is episode 75 of the Three Body Problem. We're back with a new episode on the, what is this, Saturday, December 6th, so heading into the holiday season, but of course we have an explosion on our hands. At least we have a big story to get to today. Before I get to this, before I get to the news, just a quick check-in with Costin. How are things in Europe?
It's the end of the year. Like today is this Saint Nicholas. I don't know if you celebrate it in the States. It's like a day when children. it's a day when children, nice, very nice behaving children, they get some kind of gifts like chocolate, candies, and whatever. And the not very
Amazon
nice
Day?
kids, the not
It's like
nice
a pre-Christmas?
It's like a pre-Christmas, exactly, and it's Saint Nicholas Day in theory. So it's on December 5th, and kids which are not nice, they get coal and sticks.
It's fucking socialists. Look at how many holidays, right? It's not one Christmas. It's got to be pre-Christmas, then Christmas, then post-Christmas, Orthodox Christmas.
But like you're next with all this like Saint Valentine's Day.
I remember. You remember KL? Like it was fascinating, right? Because most companies in the
March
US will
1st.
just stop doing any fucking work whatsoever in December. But the Russians would do that in January. So there was like 2 months where nobody was doing shit. Like we're just working, and you're
Probably
like,
still is.
I think everybody else died. Like,
Well, January was the best, most productive month because you could finally like get back to all your projects and work on them without anyone bothering you, without your boss bothering you.
Could we get a January hiatus just enforced at all companies? Just recenter yourself. Take a little time. Hit your stride again.
Before we get to the show, Juanito, you mentioned just jumping off a flight. Where were you? How were things in your life?
I was in San Francisco. I had to go to the office, Mountain View, see some friends from Singapore, amazing folks, and get to check in on Gabe and St. Myers, Cyber Dad. So just planning. We've got a lot of stuff happening at Labs and a lot of change for the better, for really interesting work that we're doing. And there's no point trying to fight people on publications in December, so everybody can just knock themselves out. This December is the Friday of months, right? It's when you like publish your stories that you don't want whatever dirt people have been sitting on all year.
Doesn't feel like that this week though. I feel like there's a bunch of dumps this week. In addition to the React stuff, there's a bunch of big, important threat intel reports, surveillance reports that just kind of dropped.
Next week is when you publish. After that, if you have a competent PR person in your team, they'll tell you to go fuck yourself if you want to publish something like at Christmas. You think that this is what people are going to talk about?
Before we get to the news, I want to do a quick bit of house cleaning if the audience would allow. I wanted to say thanks to Material Security for the sponsorship last month. They sponsored the entire month of December. Good partner to have. They'll return again in 2026. This episode is sponsored by ThreatLocker. Costin, I think you said you were able to look at the website. You looked at the website and was interested. Pretty interesting product. We'll talk a little bit about ThreatLocker in the future episodes, but ThreatLocker is going to be sponsoring the show for the duration of this month. And then we have Harun Mir thinks Canary has signed a contract to sponsor some episodes in the new year. We have TLP Black officially on board as a presenting sponsor. So very happy to have all these sponsors aboard. This is not an easy show to sponsor because we talk a lot of shit. So appreciate the support. Appreciate the support from those folks. And if you guys in the audience are in need of products in these categories, I want to say we'd be happy if you'd show some support for them. With that out of the way, Costin, I'll start with you. Have you re-downloaded Chrome? Last episode, you mentioned you don't use Chrome anymore because it has this ESET antivirus engine in it, built into it that automatically does a scan. Billy Leonard from Google Tag, who's a global head of state-sponsored hacking and threats over there, said, "Hey, Costin, what up? cleanup tool was removed from Chrome almost 3 years ago. Happy to have you back. So have you downloaded Chrome since? Are you happy now that all is well?
Oh no, I mean I have Chrome installed. I never said that I
just
don't have
use
it installed. I have it exactly. And I think the most important thing is always to be unpredictable. So like for a long time I've been using Chrome with the Firefox user agent, Firefox with the Chrome user agent. So whenever like
on
some
Opera this week. Vivaldi.
I wouldn't say, yeah. To be honest, Opera I don't use a lot, but Vivaldi is interesting as well. I mean, all Chromium-based browsers are pretty interesting to play with. And yeah, thanks to Billy, I didn't know that they got rid of the ESET engine.
But it doesn't mention the ESET engine. He linked to an article. He linked to an article that says that the Chrome cleanup tool was removed, right?
And we had to check, like, because they don't say we removed the ESET engine. And I was like, okay, you removed the Chrome cleanup tool, but did you remove the ESET engine? Apparently, the Chrome cleanup tool was the ESET engine.
Apparently, yeah.
According to ESET's website, and on ESET's website, I don't think they say anything about this, the seizing of this partnership.
What you got against ESET, bro? They're, they're good folks. They're good people.
I think it was, 2023. So,
but there's a bigger issue here, though, right? Yeah. Where there's let me just frame it in this way. There's not a bigger issue, but a larger discussion point here around a vendor having something problematic in there. Someone says, "Hey, it's not from me. I'm going to go in another direction." They say, it's been removed. You're welcome to come back now." It feels like we're supposed to just kind of. I know it's not a big. I'm not making it into a big thing. But the idea that, okay, it was bad and now it's removed and you're welcome back, it just feels like big company energy.
Well, no. Come on, don't problematize that, because actually I think Billy is being pretty cool and coming in and saying that.
Nothing against Billy personally.
But I'm saying, like, I think Billy's being cool because if he doesn't mention ESET, I'm assuming he may not even be in a position to mention them, but he is coming out and saying, hey, like, no, don't worry about it. And like, frankly, I like it, because what's the alternative, right? Like we crucify them forever because they once had this thing in there, right? Like someone fixed it, somebody or somebody decided, the contract was over, right? Like something changed, hopefully for the better. Who knows, right? So sorry, my cat just walked out and turned off the monitor. That's great. Thanks, man. Something changed for the better, right? So you can't just kind of keep at them, right?
Fair enough.
That said,
fair enough. But let me plant another conversation piece in here. After our last episode, I got a lot of incoming privately in the background around Microsoft's SFI. Secure Futures Initiative that has put all of these checkboxes in place, and they're now so much better, and security is the number one thing, and I keep getting all this PR shit into my head, right? And the idea is that after the CSRB, they hired a new CISO, they restructured into 10 deputy CISOs or 6 deputy CISOs, and they're doing all of these things. And you're saying, hey, let's sit back and scratch our noses and give them a chance, because, and I'm like, at what point does the milk just continue to get spilled?
I'm sorry, sir. I'm not giving Microsoft a chance. I said Google, like Billy coming out and saying telling us like a fun tidbit is something that I would like to encourage. I would like to hear from Billy Leonard every day of my life if I could. I love the dude. But like does not translate into somehow being cool with like Microsoft and the new layer.
But I like the people that are whispering in my ear that the SFI is moving in the right direction and Microsoft is massively improving and so on. These are my friends. These are people I like who are inside Microsoft and trying to make things right.
They're
so
telling you SFI
I
is
throw it
working
back
well.
to you. It's like, are we being played by our friends?
I don't know. This motherfucker. I'm sorry. I just landed and the cat goes
Costin,
wild.
This guy and his cat. I want to just close this on the Google Chrome thing
look,
with you.
I'm not trying not to talk about the Microsoft thing, but I feel like you're almost baiting me. Like we are all hearing from people at Microsoft, and we're hearing completely divergent fucking stories about a bunch of different shit.
When do I ever bait you? Stop. No, but you get the point, right? You get the point. It's like there's a lot of marketing and PR about how much better we've gotten. Chrome is now better because the cleanup tool is removed. And I get your point. This is Billy basically saying, listen, we didn't even like it inside here. You know, it was one of those business things. And that's how I read it there. Costin, you says, we say in Romania, once you get burned with milk, you blow into the sour cream too, right? And that's the point I'm making. Is like, at what point are we just blowing on sour cream all the time?
I don't know, man, but physically this happened to me. Like when I was little, I absolutely got burned with the hot milk, and then I was blowing into yogurt, sour cream, whatever. So I don't know. It's the power of habit. It's when people I think when people see one kind of thing that they don't like, then it takes like a lot of effort to change that perception. I mean, I think Chrome is doing some amazing things in terms of security, to improve security, to make it more resistant to exploitation. And it's probably kind of ages ahead of other browsers from this point of view. At the same time, I feel that you are the product. With companies that essentially give you free stuff, you are the product. And then it means that you need to pay with your telemetry, you need to pay with your data. So they just have to find ways in order to compensate and to balance that product. And I think that what they even say this in the blog when they say goodbye to Chrome Cleanup, that this got actually was replaced by things like, you know, checking your downloads. Whenever you download the file, that is being checked against Google security backend services. And I think the nice thing there is that you can actually turn it off. Yeah,
unlike your Defender experience,
yeah, you
right?
can. While Defender, it's extremely difficult to turn it off. And I also like this. I don't think we talked enough, and we talked a lot about this enhanced protection that Google offers. And I do have friends who actually they reached out and they enabled this enhanced protection. By the way, do you guys have this enhanced protection enabled in Chrome?
I didn't even. No,
Probably
I don't.
not. Yeah,
it's not something that they evangelize.
I feel truant. Yeah, like am I? What the fuck?
So what does enhanced protection do? Like the fastest, the strongest level of protection against dangerous sites, real-time URL checks. So
there's some business analytics happening in the background.
I mean, real-time URL checks that sounds like safe browser. This sounds like this is just safe browser shit.
Wait, this is not safe browser shit. This is business analytics intelligence collection.
Vision-based phishing detection. Vision-based phishing detection. Yes, client-side vision-based phishing detection.
Okay. Oh shit, yeah, I've had my shit off. What am I doing?
The point you're making, Costin, is that although the Chrome cleanup removal tool was removed, the intelligence collection hasn't stopped. It's been replaced with something else, and you're still the product. And in this case, you are this business analytics data collection thing in the background.
Like Google is, I think it is struggling, and they are like really doing an amazing thing, providing a security solution, something that tries to protect people, right? And this may actually be very good and very well suitable for the vast majority of people out there. But I think that, I don't know, for security researchers, for paranoid people like myself and maybe others who run Pi-hole servers with block lists, firewalls to try to block telemetry and so on. Because why? Because we have NDAs, and because we honor TLP black style data that we receive from others, and we don't want that data being leaked through telemetry, through Defender, and through other mechanisms. So that's why people like myself are maybe a bit more paranoid. So in a way, I was trying to say that Google Chrome is not an awesome browser, like probably the safest out there. And by the way, I've seen cases in the past when people were running other things like Brave, you know, Chromium-based browser, and they still got owned with 0 days. So it doesn't necessarily mean that if you use a Chromium-based browser, you are more secure than running Chrome itself. Actually, Chrome itself is probably a pretty nice ecosystem, the way it works.
Yeah, that's an interesting. So I think of Chromium. I think of Chromium like democracy. Like it's like the only thing worse than a Chrome-based browser is a non-Chrome-based browser, right? In the sense of like, I feel uncomfortable about all the stuff that's shoved into it. The malware removal tool, I don't even know that was like my primary concern, just because the entire architecture of Chrome is like a very strange, very like all-encompassing. If you look at it as from like a behavioral log perspective, it does everything that you don't think an application should do. Like it's a heuristic nightmare for a lot of detection stuff, just because it does all kinds of weird shit. It has like persistent update mechanisms and like all kinds of things that just, are running in the background. Interesting thing right now that you mentioned this enhanced protection, and I was like, I went looking and I'm like, I feel like I fucked up, right? I should have turned on whatever the enhanced protection is. And then you go look at it and you go, well, actually, when you turn on enhanced protection, like, look, they're putting it right on the tin, but that is where it's sending URLs that you visited, small samples of page content, downloads, extension activity, system information to Google Safe Browsing, right? Which would be the broader sort of checks on that kind of stuff. It talks about in-depth scans of suspicious downloads. Like you're basically saying, turn on the AV component of Chrome.
Which was the problematic thing in the first place, because Costin has no problem with ESET. It's just this AV component of the browser, right?
Dude, you know what I was thinking about? Like, I was praising Google DeepMind last episode about the whole AlphaFold thing and them, being willing to do all this protein folding stuff and then just put that out into the world so that everybody could use it. I would feel so much happier, so much more comfortable if, like, I knew that all of the samples collected from safe browsing and from the internet scraping and from, the VT sharing and whatnot, if that was somehow going into like a collection for the world. You know what I mean? Like if Google had instead decided, instead of like trying to make paltry money out of like, what is paltry money for Google out of VirusTotal? If they decided like, you know what, this is going to be like a research tool for like all researchers who look into malware, and we can just have one ginormous database with the one company that knows how to handle ginormous scale data on Earth, it would be like a service to humanity. I mean, a much more niche one, but I would feel, and I say that it's like a weird tangent because I'm not speaking as smoothly with so little sleep, but like it would make me feel a lot better about shit like this. Like, sysinternals, the file explorer, the task manager replacement that they have, it will automatically send samples to VT. If you set it as like the task manager replacement and stuff like that. Cool. Like, I mean, in a sense, for some people, right? Like you're checking side-loaded DLLs as to whether they're signed, whether it's the right hash, and like sending. Okay, if you were telling me that stuff is going to the same repo that we all work off of, and we all work off of it, and it's not like a price thing, it's not can you afford to use VT? I would, I would find it less objectionable. I'd just be like, well, we're all contributing to the same fucking place, right?
Yeah, my beef with Chrome is like, can you get fucking search to work? Like they're using this AI generated search result at the top and it's all trash. It's in many cases just completely incorrect because I tested things that I actually know. It is so bad. And the same experience, I'm having a great experience with Gemini, testing Gemini as an AI tool to do some stuff. The experience is great, but Google can't use it for their own search. That's crazy to me. And then the other thing, just to close the loop on this from my side, is the way the two vendors deliberately not make each other's services work on their Chromium-based browsers, like Google, like affecting if you log into a Microsoft service or you go on the, you know what I mean? Like they're just kind of like making things a little wonky. The calendar doesn't quite look right and all this shit. It's like, come on, guys, what are we doing?
You ever tried to use Google Docs on Safari?
This is my point.
This shit doesn't even work. Yeah.
Anyway. Let's move on to the big news of the week. It is early December and it had shades of Log4Shell. This is React2Shell. React2Shell is a React unauthenticated remote code execution, CVSS 10 out of 10, reported to the Facebook team on November 29 by Lachlan Davidson by the Meta Bug Bounty Program. And a patch was CVE 2025-55182. A patch was shipped on December 3rd. Pretty impressive timeline to get a big patch like this out. Obviously, everyone's the hair on your neck is on edge. Costin, why is this a big story?
Well, it's a big story because it's a very dangerous thing, which has the potential to affect more than half of the internet. And the reason is that this React project it became incredibly popular. I was thinking that pretty much everybody nowadays they use React or one of the kind of connected projects that are also vulnerable. Like, of course, another example is Next.js. They're just almost everywhere. They're used everywhere. And I know people who got owned already as of yesterday, who got owned. So this exploitation is already happening out there on the internet on a massive scale. So there's like random scams going on against pretty much anyone. So assume that if you have one of the vulnerable versions for CV 2025-55182, there's a pretty good chance that at least someone poked you to try to see if you're vulnerable, at least. If not, they already tried to exploit it. And I've seen, for instance, in one case, the attackers, they first tried to see if there's like a PowerShell available, trying to run PowerShell, seeing obviously it was a Linux system, moved on to running wget, things like that to download and run cryptocurrency mining software, obviously the cyber criminal side of things. But also APT groups have already been starting to exploit this bug. And it's pretty straightforward. In a way, it doesn't take a lot of effort to exploit it. And since POCs are already available, I think, yeah, this will be pretty big. It will be in the same category as previous cases.
Let me give a little bit of background. The vulnerability is present in versions 19.0, 19.1.0, 19.1.1, and 19.2.0. I mentioned reported to Meta. This is React was actually created by Facebook when it was Facebook by the Meta team, and it's adopted widely across the tech ecosystem. It's kind of like
Netflix, Discord, Shopify. Yeah.
All kinds of internal enterprise dashboards, SaaS platforms, widely deployed. Quick question: do we know if it's easy to patch? Because sometimes these things are not easy to patch.
No, this is a. I would say it's a pain in the ass to patch.
Really?
Yeah. And it won't. I think it won't get patched automatically. So here's the deal. With other things, imagine that you have like a Linux installation, like an Ubuntu, and you have unattended updates installed. And that basically takes care of all big vulnerabilities automatically. It will download and patch things automatically for you. So you have the kind of the peace of mind. Now, because this is a kind of an ecosystem inside of an ecosystem, it will not be patched automatically, even if you have all these things like automatic updates on, because the vulnerability is in the framework that you use to develop your website, your front ends, whatever. Then you need to do the patching like manually. You need to rebuild your project. You need to fetch the new versions which are not vulnerable, and then to rebuild and deploy the project. That's one. I think that two. There was also an interesting Cloudflare outage, which happened.
Correct. They had a 30-minute
outage,
30-minute outage yesterday, and according to the Cloudflare status update, it was tied to this. They were in maintenance mode, probably doing some manual patching, the same kind of things you're talking about.
And this is what I mean, because the possibility to block these attacks, I mean, these can be also blocked by some kind of web application firewall. So if you can't patch easily, like I think that yesterday a lot of people simply put their websites offline because they couldn't patch in time. So it's better just to take it offline. I think it's the right decision. And until you figure out how to patch it, then you patch it, you redeploy, that's fine. But if you have a web application firewall, then probably that can work as a kind of intermediary solution until you manage to patch the code. But yeah, it's kind of crazy how, you know, things are being built in other things. Ecosystems within ecosystems is the new danger nowadays.
This is the kind of software supply chain complexity we talk about, right? It's like ecosystems within ecosystems and little tiny computers running inside tiny computers inside an operating system, and each has their own unique way of being patched or even updated, and it becomes crazy. You mentioned APTs have already pounced, and before we get into what we know about the APTs pouncing, is there a way for us to know if this was ever exploited and compromised prior to this guy's discovery? Because that's always an issue for me, is that, you know, bug discovery collision. Is it, will we or could we possibly ever know that someone was already exploiting this prior to, because the bug was there?
What I can tell is from what I have seen. So I looked for signs of exploitation.
How?
Or I looked in the logs, in logs for the honeypots that are available to us and websites that I manage. So I looked for signs of exploitation. And although it looks to me that the vast majority of poking begins on December 2 and spikes absolutely like crazy on December the 4th, there's another incident that I see on November 24th, which may or may have not been related to this. But
it might have been
considering
Lachlan doing his research.
Also, it could also
because he reported it on November 29th by the Meta Bug Bounty Program.
Possible on what? On October what? On
November
what?
29th. So 5 days later than your November 24th.
Okay. So it may be, I can't tell you for sure what it was, but it looks like, yeah, there was another poke on November 24th, which seems related. And the algorithm that I was using to try to identify this exploitation, applying it for the entire year, it yields hits, one hit on 24th, one on the 2nd of December, and then a lot on the 4th, beginning on the 4th.
Right, that's when the patch dropped on the 3rd.
It would be good to know, but unfortunately, due to how this bug gets exploited, it doesn't leave a lot in the server logs, because it happens through the headers. If you don't log the headers in your server logs, it'll be essentially hard to catch it. And the other thing is that we've seen like the entire exploitation process here can be very, very silent. It might not even, produce any kind of file artifacts on disk whatsoever. So it can be almost invisible from the point of view of server auditing, logs, and so on. So it depends. I think it depends on what logging you have in your own React app. If that app actually logs more requests, then you can be lucky and try to dig through there. And otherwise, if you haven't patched until today, December the 5th, I would the 6th actually, I would very much say, yeah, consider yourself
owned, right?
At least owned by at least one thing, if not multiple things.
What makes this whole React situation so interesting is actually the amount of vibe coding platforms that essentially default to React in the products they create. So one of the folks that has been most active on Twitter are the people from Vercel. They have this platform V0, which is fucking phenomenal at just like spinning up front ends. Like if you want a front end, you just go on V0 and go, hey, make me a Splunk-like interface that does this, that, and the other, and like spins up in 35 seconds, and you can just click a button.
Libraries, right? Yeah.
All of those applications tend to use React like quite heavily. And interestingly, I mean, they've been extremely proactive about, like, I've gotten like emails and emails from all these different things, and like I don't use anymore. I just tested them at some point, just being like, oh, you have to patch this and that. So it's cool that they're engaged. At the same time, this is
AI
death. The earliest. This is one of the earlier incidents of AI, of AI promoted technical debt. Because think about it, right? Like the AI didn't necessarily do anything wrong. It's just using a component, but it's enabling somebody to create something in a snapshot where they don't, and chances are they don't have the skills themselves to monitor it or patch it. So yeah, hopefully you still have your deployment kind of tied to this thing, and you can go back in and just tell it, hey, please update React. But I'm thinking about all the people who got vibe coded applications that they bought off of some dude on Fiverr or some other gig site, and like those shits are never going to get looked at again unless there's some kind of management deal that is coming with this. So I think it's interesting. I've been thinking a lot about sort of like accumulated technical debt. We were doing sort of like predictions articles. It's like the end of the year. You have to kind of come out with some predictions thing. And one of the bigger points that kind of stayed with me was from this podcast. A couple of episodes ago, we were talking about what happens
technical
when
debt that'll come down the pike, right?
What happens when the internet becomes unforgiving, right? Like what happens when anything that can be exploited gets automatically exploited as quickly as possible. It's the dynamics of technical debt are getting really interesting.
Yeah, and the idea of Cloudflare as this centralized monoculture on its own, that every time Cloudflare has a little bit of a blip of something, the whole world feels it. That's crazy pants to me that we're here. Let's jump quickly to Costin. You mentioned APTs have already pounced. Our friends at Amazon Threat Intel team has actually been churning out stuff with IOCs. So shout out to Amazon. I know I gave them shit, but here we are. They're on it. They said within hours of the public disclosure of this React2Shell thing on December 3rd, Amazon Threat Intel teams observed active exploitation attempts by multiple Chinese Nexus state threat groups, including Earth Lamia and Jackpot Panda. I hate these fucking names. Who are these people, Costin?
Jackpot Panda.
Who are these Jackpot Panda people?
I knew you were going to ask me, like, who are these
these
peoples?
motherfuckers?
Who are these peoples?
Who are these monsters?
Well, Earth Lamia, obviously that's a trend micro name for a Chinese APT group.
Obviously.
Luckily, Trendmicro is one of the companies that actually publish a lot of stuff. So they do publish a lot of blogs with the IOCs, and you can find a lot of materials. Yeah, about their naming. Jackpot Panda, on the other hand, I think there's very, very little information available on the internet. So
different groups.
You can find Jackpot Panda, I think, on the CrowdStrike website, but there isn't a lot of information, at least as far as I know, about Jackpot Panda. So I may be wrong here, obviously, but I think you can find a lot more about Earth Lamia. Jackpot Panda, I think, that's probably worth more investigations.
I know we don't fact check, but it's worth mentioning that Amazon says this doesn't affect AWS services at all. They're just sharing threat intelligence.
They're
to
just
help
being
people
cool
figuring out the response. And what did we find in the blog? Any valuable IOCs? Any sort of tools that can help?
So actually, they have like there's 4 IP addresses in there, as well as very, very super valuable indicators for me. They do actually say what to search for within HTTP post requests. So this next dash action or RC dash action ID, request bodies with $@ request bodies with status resolve model. So I thought it was like exactly the thing that people needed if they wanted to look a bit in their networks. I took the IP addresses they're sharing. I also looked for this across our honeypot. So me personally, I haven't seen these IPs hitting the infrastructure that I have access to, but I've seen a lot of other IPs from similar IP ranges, like some of these cloud providers that are, for one reason or another, they're like super friendly or preferred by Chinese APT groups like Vulture, like Chupa, Single Hop, these kind of things. There's a lot of stuff coming from there, but there's like 4 IP addresses you can search in your logs. One of them, I think it's associated with the VPN, and one is associated with an unattributed threat cluster. and all those indicators, which to me they're like super useful to spot the first signs of testing or attempted compromise against the honeypots that we have access to.
You mentioned earlier that a lot of the infections is seamless, so you might not even be able to spot it. Amazon mentions here that you can also check for unexpected process execution or file modifications on application servers. So there are some artifacts and traces that might help you. So shout out to the Amazon team. Juanito, you got anything good out of this?
Yeah, I mean, look, I'm actually quite happy seeing this come out of Amazon. And this is a thing this is one of those where you can see that
where did they get this kind of visibility from? I know they mentioned this AWS Madpot honeypot.
Right?
Yeah, I mean, they're doing their own honeypotting. And look, this is the kind of thing where when you do shit right, product placement doesn't feel shitty. You know, when you do shit where you're just like, hey, we happen to be doing this thing. Look at all that we know. Anyways, would you like
here
to buy
we are
whatever?
Promoting AWS Madpot,
I don't give a
right?
fuck. I'm happy. Look, I'm happy because what did you do with it? Well, within the first 45 seconds while everybody's running with their hair on fire, you came out and gave us something useful. Thank you. Also, good luck with your product, right? Like, I think that's the right way to do it. So shout out to our Amazon friends, man. They, you know, we've made very big progress very quickly, and I'm proud of those dudes.
Ooh, alongside that, we got a coordinated notice from the NSA, CISA, all of these multi-agency press release and advisory on BRICKSTORM backdoor that coincided with a threat intel report from CrowdStrike around Warp Panda. Warp Panda is a threat actor that's been targeting VMware vCenter environments. If you go to the CISA KEV, the known exploited vulnerabilities catalog, and you type in VMware vCenter, there's like a massive list of old exploitations, so we can see what's been happening. Warp Pandas maintain long-term persistent access to networks. In one of the intrusions, gaining initial access in late 2003. CrowdStrike goes on to say there was a point I wanted to make, and I had a specific question. Let me ask Costin first. You got your good IOCs from this one as well?
Yeah, I mean, there's a pretty thorough report with a lot of indicators inside, like hashes. Also like information about how the malware works, about the capabilities. Of course, we're talking here about the BRICKSTORM that we discussed before. I think we talked about it in the past several times, because it's not the first time that BRICKSTORM is in the news, especially with their tool set that allows them to communicate between virtual machines to do exfiltration through the hypervisor by building tunnels between the VM and the hypervisor. So it's good to have this report. There's Yara rules as well that I haven't been able to fully test, to be honest, but they look okayish. I mean, they have a meta section, you know me. They have a meta section, they have a less modified, they put the date, they have hashes in there, they have a description, and the strings they use seem solid, but I haven't been able to test them yet because I've been busy more with this other emergency, if you want, that was happening in parallel. So
BRICKSTORM, we believe, is used by multiple Chinese Nexus threat actors. And I think CrowdStrike is making the point here that Warp Panda, this group that they're tracking here, is the only one that's been observed using BRICKSTORM. It's another one called Guest Conduit and Junction. So there's like, they're trying to figure out the overlapping use tools and so on. What did we get out of this report, Juanito?
I mean, honestly, I mostly was like sitting around looking at a lot of the VMware stuff and trying to figure out whether, like, I was curious, right? We started talking about vCenter sort of being used all over the place, and you know, there's been a lot of movement and acquisition for VMware in the recent past. I just kept wondering if we were seeing sort of a decay of its maintenance, but it's not being end of life. It's still being supported. It's just kind of
They're pretty
you know,
actively
good fodder,
patching
right?
big things too. I mean, the VMware security response team has been pretty active. At least I see things at least twice a month, flagging things, flagging exploited things, updating vulnerabilities when things are off. We don't get IOCs, you don't get stuff, but at least we know. Anything else to
It's
add
just
to Warp
crazy to think
Panda?
of VMware as like so much smaller.
Yeah.
Sorry, yeah. Like
It's crazy.
I'm thinking about what VMware was 5 years ago, and now, like, it's insane. But anyways, sorry. Yeah, this is interesting. It's interesting that we keep seeing folks kind of returning to this BRICKSTORM thing. It just kind of keeps popping up, and you're getting a lot of disclosures from. Before it was like this European agency that came out with a report. Obviously, our friends at Mandiant. And now NSA folks, and like it's all really well substantiated and detailed. So it's like it makes me wonder what it is about this one that seems to really be getting people kind of aligned.
You've probably seen BRICKSTORM in a bunch of like really, really important places because there's an adjoining technical, like really in-depth technical report on the BRICKSTORM backdoor dated December 4 by CISA, NSA, and our friends at the Canadian Center for Cybersecurity. So there must be some significant thing happening in North America that they wanted to flag this and get people focused on looking at this.
It's probably credit to Mandiant as well. I'm gonna assume. I'm completely assuming. But when you see sort of a high level of like technical acumen across the different publications and stuff, to me it usually suggests like the original reporter, or the person who's actually doing the connective tissue work, is leaning into providing that technical acumen in the first place. But that's a total guess, a complete guess.
From that report, it said at the victim organization that CISA conducted this incident response, these Chinese actors gained long-term access to the organization internal network in April 2024 and uploaded BRICKSTORM to an internal vCenter server. They also gained access to 2 domain controllers and an Active Directory Federal Services ADFS server, and then successfully compromised that ADFS server and exported cryptographic keys. So there's like a lot of nitty-gritty warnings and heads up happening here about what these guys are up to with BRICKSTORM. Costin, you were going to make a point.
Yeah, more, I think, more along the lines that I thought was interesting that CrowdStrike kind of coordinated on this release, but not other companies. So we saw this come out of the CISA, NSA, the Cyber Center, and CrowdStrike at the same time. So it felt that CrowdStrike had some kind of heads up, so they knew that this was coming, so they prepared something to push their name out there for this, right? The War Panda. At the same time, I thought it's weird. So let's kind of nitpick a bit on the report from CISA and the NSA, where they talk a lot about the BRICKSTORM, but they don't talk, I think, about the previous actor names that have been used a lot. So that would make it, in my opinion, you need to connect it somehow to existing stories. Otherwise, you're just like spinning out new threads uncontrollably. So would have been nice if they dropped something like UNC 5221, which is the name
Costin
that
knows more.
we have seen. I don't necessarily know more. You were saying that there's probably several actors using this. I know what I have seen before. So what has been published before, especially by our friends from Google Mandiant, about UNC 5221. I think that's the most thorough blogs and the best available information with the RROs, with IOCs, with pretty much everything about BRICKSTORM. Okay, so I thought it would have been nice to point to that name. Because that's what, let's say, the vast majority of information out there comes from Google Mandiant. And again, BRICKSTORM is their name. This is a name that Google Mandiant gave to this malware family. So I think it would have been nice to say that.
I've heard from Mandiant too.
I don't like how trying to avoid using any vendor names for the actor, or maybe more along the lines of we don't know which actor it is because we don't have the same visibility. So maybe it is, and we don't know if UNC 5221 is the same as War Panda or Silk Typhoon. Maybe they just different clusters which overlap. So I think it would be I don't know, put a bit more order into the chaos if these reports would reference existing research on these topics in a more systematic way.
It's fascinating to me that all these Chinese threat warnings are landing at a time when the reporting is that there's going to be no sanctions over Salt Typhoon intrusions against the Chinese because of the truce around tariffs. And it's fascinating to me how tariff negotiations play into these big, giant cybersecurity stories that are happening here. The administration also, Juanito, dropped the national security strategy yesterday, 33-page document. I actually have it printed. I got a flight tomorrow. I'll give it a read on the flight tomorrow. But I took a look at it, and the word cyber is in there just 4 times. 3 times it's just about like thwarting cyber espionage from China and some other places. But there's one point in there where it says the administration must move to more deregulation to enable private sector companies to assist in cyber operations, including offensive cyber operations, which comes back to your point from last week, that regulation is a dirty word here. We see it actually referenced in the strategy document here. You got a chance to pick at this at all? Any thoughts on where this is at?
Well, it's not a cyber strategy, right? It's just it's a national, it's more a national security strategy. And in that, I'd be really curious to hear from folks who are more knowledgeable about how these things are usually put together and how they get put out. Because my sense is that this is a very, very, very different document than what you would normally expect from the US government. So I think it
reads differently. It reads kind of
the whole thing is totally different. It's espousing a different worldview. It's basically a testament to like post Bretton Woods thinking. It's like, everybody do their fair share. We're not going to impose our values on you. The other nations should have the right to like look out for their own values. We will do the same, and hopefully we'll find like things in the middle. Just like, it's just fascinating to read from a U.S. like policy, history, whatever perspective, right? Because it's the not so quiet part being not even out loud, but like telegraphed vividly to all other nations. Like, this is how we're going to operate.
There's a big European component in there. I think Costin should pay attention to clearly, because there's a massive kind of, we need to help correct Europe's path.
Well, I think the idea being we need to, it's weird, right? Because the way that it's being phrased is not so much we need to help correct anyone's path as much as we need to correct our path such that everybody else kind of acts in their own, in their own capacity. Look, you're seeing it spelled out. I've been calling, at no point do I say that I agree or disagree with it. Like, I really want to take kind of like an intelligence analyst's detachment to these things and just look at sort of what they're trying to do. Because it's not about, I think, falling into the partisan trap and just saying, I hate the left or I hate the right. It just puts everything into such a narrow focus that we don't actually evaluate whether things are having good outcomes or not. We're obviously not in a place to be able to say what parts of what is changing, what the effects of this are, and if they're going to be positive or negative. But the one thing I will say unabashedly, because we were saying it a year ago and 2 years ago, is, well, the shit from before was not working. In cyber, in internet, in tech, it just wasn't working. So I didn't have as much of a vested interest in, well, we need to keep this system functioning.
Yeah, I've been accusing you of being a free-for-all kind of...
because I was just saying, look, this shit doesn't work, right? So, so I'm not going to complain about somebody deciding to kind of shake up the thing that was there that wasn't really working. At the same time, I know better than to just be a, idealistic revolutionary thinking that, well, the other shit doesn't work, so tear it down, and surely what comes is better, right? But
some sort of pivoting was necessary, in your opinion.
I think that. So what I saw, what I got to see in the US government and in trying to support some of these things in whatever small capacity, was a system that knew it was broken or it was not fit for purpose in cyber and tech, but also knew that it could not change in any way whatsoever, right? So like the minute the conversation goes into like, oh, but that's classification, you're like, this is over. Like this whole thing is over because we will never, ever, ever fix the classification system. Period. Right. And that kind of intransigence, like when everybody's sitting in a room going, this doesn't work and it can never change. Let's find ways to sort of squirrel our way around to trying to do the mission. Then I don't think that that's necessarily a organizational mechanism that we should enthusiastically defend. Now, does that mean that what we're going to do now is better? I'm not going that far, right? I'm just saying, if let's put it this way, right? Let's assume that this Trump administration is just a 4-year thing, which I have no reason to believe that it is or that it isn't. I have no fucking clue. I'm not saying that it should or it shouldn't be. I'm just saying, let's assume there's this term, that we still have term limits and we're going to stick to this 4 years, right? If all we got in cyber was like no progress, no big changes, but they kind of throw out the whole US classification system and give people an opportunity to start over in a more reasonable capacity.
You'll take that as a win.
I would take that as a win. Obviously, that's not what seems to be on the table, but it would be a change that it would be like nuking something from orbit and at least letting people like rebuild. It will still look like a fucking Fallout 4 attempt at dystopia, but it isn't sort of the thing that's been stuck. It's going to be stuck, and it makes no sense to anybody. And it's a system that's stronger than all of us, even as it sort of chokes us all to death. I don't know, man. Like, I'm not. Look at the kind of pieces
Mr. America
that we're getting
started
from
to
like.
hedge a little bit, Costin.
No.
On the contrary. No. I was looking through the policy, and I thought it was fascinating. I think it's very well written, and it says the kind of things that people expect these to have. So even if you look where they talk about like what do we want, and I can't but just notice that it says we want the world's most advanced, most innovative, most profitable technology sector, which undergirds our economy, provides a quality edge to our military, strengthens our global influence, and that comes ahead of having the world's most powerful and capable military. So the fact that technology is essentially number 4 here, political system, innovative economy, leading financial system, most advanced, innovative, profitable technology sector. They get it. I mean, the US gets it. Technology is the most important thing here. Technology is more important than many, many other things. And even in Romania, I saw a bunch of numbers today where they were talking about the fact that the economy slows down and the contribution to the country's GDP from different sectors like tourism, very small growth, agriculture, very small growth, but technology, the growth in technology was insane, like 15% growth year over year. And I was thinking, this is where you need to focus. Like, if they understand how the world moves nowadays, this is where you need to focus. You need to focus on technology. You need to understand technology. You need to understand that, things like AI, biotech, quantum. Exactly what they say here. We want to ensure that the U.S. technology and the U.S. standards, particularly in AI, biotech, and quantum computing, drive the world forward. So yeah, it's fascinating to read this, especially where they poke Europe a bit about going into the wrong direction, like restoring Europe's civilizational self confidence and Western identity.
That
Which
part,
is
I'm like,
that's a little dark.
Look,
no, but
we
dude,
need
that's a
our
dog
Western
whistle.
identity back. Like, we need to get rid of this shit. We need
The
our
bottle
Western
cap.
identity back, please.
Dude, to me those are little dog whistles that I'm not thrilled about, because to me those feel like signals to the more like authoritarian turned European countries, where I'm like this is, in a lot of those countries in Europe, the kind that are using this sort of language about sovereignty and whatnot, it a lot of it is coming with the kind of populist uprisings that historically in Europe are not necessarily like the most savory.
But what Costin is telling you, and what is very clear from my conversations with Costin, is that it's resonating with Europeans. It's resonating with especially younger people, right, Costin? Like this kind of nationalistic, save our civilization.
Gen Z is a bunch of little fascists. That's what it is. Yeah.
I think the best example is this. The most recent happening of all is that the European Commission has fined Twitter X, like 140 million euros for some reason. Let's say because they don't like Elon Musk, or because they don't like X, or because they don't have control over it and they want to have more control. Without diving into the reasons for that. So obviously that created like a lot of tensions and emotions about talking about like, let's sanction these European bureaucrats and like things like that. And I think even JD Vance wrote on X before this fine happened, saying that I hear some rumors that the Europeans want to impose which in my opinion is a huge fine, $140 million, because of the blue check mark is now deceiving or disciple or whatever. It's absurd, like it's stupid. It just, it's wrong. And I was thinking that there's a lot of confusion regarding what the European Union is and what are the values of the European Union. Then there's like all these different organizations or bodies. And I'll give you an example. There's the European Commission, then there's the European Council, and then there's the Council of Europe. And all these they're like three different things with three different. And then there's the European Parliament as well. And like,
but they all form part of the European Union. The Union has all of these kinds of bureaucratic units that does different things. You're making this sound like it's some crazy pants.
Here's the issue. Come on. Like, in theory, what people complain about is that we elect some people who in turn, they choose other people to run all these commissions and committees and councils and whatever.
Did you read the
part of the Brexit justification, right?
They go ahead, and then they start doing things that we don't want in the first place. Like, nobody wants, for instance, chat control, but they're pushing like crazy for this chat control thingy, which started under the previous commissioners.
Well, you can't say nobody wants it when they're pushing for it. Those are conflicting things.
There's a huge amount of people in the European Union. I think that the vast majority of people who know what they're talking about, they don't want this. Obviously, there are some reasons why they're pushing it. Doesn't necessarily mean that we want it, like we as Europe or as a European Union. Obviously, we don't want. People like me who survived through the communism, where Securitate was opening all the letters coming in and out to check them for subversive materials. Like, you're going back to this.
That's the equivalent of it. You feel
this
the same.
Is the equivalent. You're gonna check all the messages for subversive materials or like some sorts of materials, just like the Securitate was doing back in Ceausescu's communist times. And the people who are pushing for this, they don't have good explanations. They're all trying to give stupid explanations that people should just accept. Like, oh, we're doing it to protect the kids. Oh, it's because criminals are using it, so we need to backdoor it. And because law-abiding citizens don't use encryption, only criminals use encryption. And, bullshit like this, which, again, it comes from all these different organizations, which don't necessarily come from people that you or I voted for in the first place. So, yeah.
This is the justification for Brexit. Why are a bunch of bureaucrats in Brussels making decisions for me in Wales? Like, I don't know who these people are. They're making these weird decisions, leaving bottle caps on. And
Well, I understand that and I agree with that, but I don't know that there was anything about Brexit that was like genuinely in the interest of the UK. Like going to the UK post Brexit is a sobering and sad, like, just example of how much a population is willing to shoot themselves in the foot. London was like the de facto the actual capital of Europe. Whatever people said, you can say whatever you want about Berlin and like Germany having the money and whatever you want, but like the banks were all in London. The people, if you were going to meet people, you were meeting them in London, and it was this amazing, vibrant place. And you go now, and it is not that. Dude, I was walking down Bond Street, and like somebody from the Burberry shop pulled me aside and was like, "Hey, you really should cover your watch," because I was walking around with my jacket rolled up, and I'm like, in Bond Street, in old fucking Bond Street, like Savile Row down the street. I can't, like, are you fucking kidding me? But he was saying it because somebody had already snatched the watch earlier that day. So you go, dude, it's just, what the fuck happened, right?
Yeah, but
like,
that's not. You think that's Brexit related, or that's just
I
crime and the economy?
But that's my point. Crime and the economy, very Brexit related, right? Like you let you let that economic vibrancy leave. A lot of the people, a lot of companies moved out of there. The banks stopped working out of London, and you just don't have the same amount of money flowing. You're not part of a larger economic bloc. Like the UK kind of bought itself like an irrelevance that you don't easily compensate for. So I'm not saying it's all Brexit, but there's no way that, like, there is no version of the universe where we say that Brexit helped the economy or helped the position of the UK.
Yeah.
So
it's not. This surveillance thing is not limited to Europe or thing. I mean, I saw there was a reporting this week on India having an order requiring smartphone companies to pre-install a government cybersecurity app. They subsequently walk back the order and it can be removed, and there's some things there. So we know governments all over the world wants to do this. I'll mention also that half of the US now requires users to upload an ID to validate age before accessing porn sites, sexually explicit websites. 25 states, it's now this age verification law is in place. And there's a feeling that if VPNs are the circumvention tool, they're going to come for VPNs too. And at some point, we'll have a flavor of chat control here that requires this. I mean, it just feels like we're heading in that direction. Am I wrong?
The question is, like, if you ask me, the question is how serious of a problem that is, so that they're like now pushing all these laws. Is it for real such a huge problem that, I know, minors are accessing porn sites? Is that the issue? Or is the issue deeper? And the issue is about control, is about creating an obedient society, about implementing mechanism and levers that allow them to, let's say, spy on people and suppress dissent and things like that. So that is the question, I guess. Well, which one is it?
This is What's our Joe Roganiest episode.
It feels so, right?
It feels very like, I feel like we're in it for our right-wing friends today.
No, and I mean, in Europe, I tell you one more thing, which is that it feels that whoever is running within the councils and the commissions and the parliaments and the groups and I don't know whatever, they're just like stretching themselves thin into all sorts of different directions. There's like a bunch of people, we need to help Ukraine, Russia is the big problem. Then there's another group, we need to get rid of cars that use fuel. We need to replace everything with electric cars. And there's actually a target to stop selling anything that is not electric cars by 2036, if I'm not mistaken. And even like recently, Germany was like, "Oh, whoa, guys, we need some kind of an exception. We can't do that. Like, we're gonna destroy our economy. We're gonna crash." And I feel them. I mean, yeah, there's like pushes in all sorts of directions, like chat control. And instead of, let's say, focusing on one thing that really matters, there's just like pushing in all sorts of different directions, which create a a feeling of chaos, and people are just like not united. I think that is the issue. They're not united by a common goal, and instead they're like fighting towards different concepts, different directions, against imaginary adversaries like
well, is it really imaginary? Is it really imaginary when you're at war?
No, I said chat control.
No, I'm talking about the ability to surveil and look for. It's wartime.
They're not even pretending it's for war.
If that is the issue, but
they're not even pretending it's for
cars.
War. Like that's the thing, though, Ryan. Like if they were even like half as competent as the people we were dealing with back in like the Bush era, and like we were talking about Patriot Act adjacent things, then you at least would make an argument tied to the things that are happening in front of you. But like, look at the question you just asked. Like, well, wouldn't it be good for like wartime? Like, well, but that's not what they're talking about. They're talking about children and a bunch of bullshit issues around like sort of decency and it's
some material kind thing as well.
Yeah, and you're like, okay, sure, but that like this seems like overkill for that. Same as in like in the US, like having a moral panic about pornography is like just old school shit, right? Yeah. Like it's that moral panics are the pornography of conservative like religious people. That's all it is. It's all it's always been, right? That's their favorite conspiracy is sort of that kind of, well, the Satanists are coming for you on Signal, right? So
only for your kids.
Yeah, it's a bunch of fucking, we know it's all bullshit. What I'm interested in is, okay, we're in this like anti-regulatory like heaven for corporations right now. You know how much money is in pornography? Like, where the fuck are the lobbyists for the porn industry? If anyone's going to save us, actually, like the more I think about this, if anybody's going to fucking save us. The VPN industry
is filling that slot. It's dude, like, hey, the porn industry is on trouble.
Exactly, dude. If Pornhub, like this is your time to shine as like the defenders of like internet free speech, essentially.
If they don't spy on you through legal means, they'll eventually spy on you. We have a coordinated release of a bunch of reports around Intellexa and Intellectual's corporate web. Shout out to Julian from Recorded Future, Google Cloud. Google also had a report out, and then there's some reporting about this Intellexa firm that's owned by an ex-Intel officer in Israeli, still active amid U.S. sanctions. And the Recorded Future actually documents this global corporate web of, even within the sanctions, they're still aware. On tandem with that, Apple sent in a fresh batch of spyware notifications to about users in 84 countries. So we know that Apple has got another batch going out. There's more reporting on French NGO Reporters Without Borders targeted by Callisto in a recent campaign. There's just a lot of new reports and activity around commercial spyware. The Intellexa report stood out to me, Costin, because it really goes out and documents this web of corporate thing and kind of reporting we are hoping to see. Did we learn anything new at all from this?
Well, there's a bunch of new IOCs in there. If you ask me, the Recorded Future report that Julian wrote is the most thorough of all. It has like the most IOCs. It has like the most interesting information in there, to me at least. It was definitely the best. It was also the first that I read. And in addition to this, like you were saying, there's one from Google and there's one from Amnesty.
Amnesty as well, correct.
International. Let's not forget that as well. I think it was kind of a weird, maybe I misread, or maybe the story changed since I read it, but it was like kind of strange in the sense that one of the reports said that like they're thanking Google and Amnesty, and then in the Google report they were saying we thank Amnesty, but not the other guys. And I thought that was like strange, and now I see that the thanks to Google has disappeared from that report. So I don't know.
From the Recorded Future one, it's just pointing only to Amnesty now. So we know that there's some beef there or some hiccup there, right?
I don't know what happened there. Something may have happened, but like if you ask me, of all the reports, the Recorded Future one is the most interesting because it has the most comprehensive IOCs and description of everything. The amnesty one has like they're like dropping, I think, 2 IOCs to domains throughout the report, and I kind of hate it that they don't have it like at the end in a pretty standard industry technique. I don't know, like everybody does it, to just have an IOC section at the end.
Amnesty doesn't give a shit about sharing stuff. Like at this point, both Amnesty and Citizen Lab, like they have no interest whatsoever in sharing shit with anybody. Like I'm glad they do the work they do, and they do cool stuff, and you know they're the ones at the coalface with the activists. But it also is starting to feel like they're almost trying to elbow anybody else away from helping activists. They're like, this is our fucking lane. You're like, all right, you guys need to calm down. You need to remember that this is supposed to be about protecting people that are being targeted, and not about marking your territory and peeing all over it like this part of the mobile implant business is ours, kid. Like, what the fuck is going on?
Shout out to Julian Ferdinand. We had him at LabsCon, Juanito. You remember?
I love Julian, and this fucking kills me, because I really don't like Recorded Future, like personally as a company. Like, I have some mild history with it. I never liked the way they operated back in the day. That's like a, whatever, but Julian does great work. And like, I have have to give him credit, and did a great talk. We've done collabs with Sentinel Labs. Alex Milankowski and Julian have done great work together.
He was a speaker in the last LabsCon. He did this camouflage thing. Really interesting talk.
I need to be a bigger person, and honestly, the quality of the research is big enough where they're giving Julian a platform. I got to put my feelings aside, and
in addition to this big intellectual exposure, we also saw revelations on a group called Group 78, a secret U.S. task force that fights cyber criminals, and this was related to Le Monde, French newspaper. Pretty detailed documentation of this kind of outing of this Blackbuster ransomware group. How is this any different from the leaking of Lab Duke Fagan, Costin? Is this, what I'm saying? Is this any different?
Are you asking me specifically if it's the same people?
No, that's not what I'm asking you.
Or this is like if the idea is the same.
This is being held up. The story I read on Le Monde, it's being held up as the US has a secret offensive team looking to out some ransomware actors. Things we've been asking for. Like, these ransomware assholes have been doing their own thing, and we've been on this podcast for the whole last year saying, why aren't we doing more? Why aren't we being more aggressive? What should it look like? This is actually what it looks like. Is this kind of exposing them, leaking stuff to select journalists, dropping details on doxing these ransomware assholes. It's affecting some European investigations apparently, and there's like some friction around how the US is approaching it, and the existence of this Group 78, quote unquote Group 78, as this secret US task force. I'm asking the question, is this just not one of those leak and expose operation? Why is it any different?
I don't think it's necessarily any different, and I don't think.
And why did you think I was asking if they were the same thing?
Because we know there's a lot of kind of fake leak operations going on. There's a lot of these so titled and titled activists leaking information, which in reality they're not truly activists, but they're like other, I don't know, Group 79, Group 80, Group 81, and so on and so on. What is interesting here, I think, with this story is that probably they didn't want this story to come out. I don't think that they are probably very happy that this story came out, in particular when they talk about that the American guerrilla-style things were kind of creating a deep rift between the European and the US investigators. And to quote multiple sources, said European officials were stunned. I mean, I don't know, like, to me, sure, go for it. If this is what they need to do in order to draw these people out of Russia and to arrest them, please do it. I mean, yeah, they're going to put pressure on them to make them like, to annoy, to make their life difficult. And then they say like, you know, I'm done with this shit. Let's just go to Thailand for a vacation. They go to Thailand for vacation, and what do you know? Who is waiting for them in Thailand? Is Group 78 member the FBI. And if this is like, I'm okay. This is okay in my book. Absolutely.
The legal system in Europe is worried about interference of investigations going on, tainting of evidence, legal, blah, blah, blah. Juanito, you're rolling your eyes. Why?
I don't know how to talk about this story, like, at all. I don't know how to talk about any of it. None of it sits well with me. None of it, all of it sounds weird to me. First of all, like, what the fuck are we talking about? Like,
look, can I quote something?
Yes.
I quote something? I've never seen anything like this, said a veteran Europol cyber officer. Committing crimes to damage an ecosystem is extremely unusual, even for the FBI.
What the fuck? Like, everyone is displaying their worst qualities right now.
Yeah, the other shit here is like someone comes in and privately shares an operation that's happening around like a hack and leak operation that's happening, and then they drop it into a Le Monde private report. It's like, I don't know.
Yeah, okay. Let's engage just a little bit, right? So, I don't know what the fuck is going on. This isn't how the FBI normally operates in anything. But also, like, if this is really what's happening, why would they say it like that? And then if they do have this privileged data, like, clearly it wasn't data sourced by the FBI, because if it had been sourced by them, you wouldn't get some cutout that's giving it to journalists. Like, you know, Ryan, like, my thinking did not go to Lab Duftagan or anything like that, because, you know, that's just, you don't usually have someone in a meeting somewhere saying we're gonna play these tricks with the whatever, and then somebody else goes and talks to a journalist. Like, it's totally ass backwards. It's just not how you would do it. But most importantly, if that data has to make it to people on the outside, it cannot have been sourced from the inside. Like, it cannot have come, if it's been handed to some FBI whatever, or like it's part of the IC's collection mechanisms. It's exactly what we were talking about 20 minutes ago, right? Like, you'll never in the history of man, like the age of the universe will decay before you declassify that shit. So nothing about this sounds, I don't even know what the right term is. It all sounds very fucking weird. And I don't think that it's being made up. I don't think that the Europeans are making up that something was said, but this sounds like a game of really unreliable telephone, and somebody getting excited and saying some shit they shouldn't have, and then somebody flying off the handle and doing some stuff they weren't supposed to do, and everyone's confused and everybody's kind of weirded out. And the European reaction makes me roll my eyes, because this is the kind of shit that, like, if you were doing them a favor, if you are helping them and whatever, they'll take it happily if you do it quietly. The minute you say something publicly, they all have a conscience. And oh my God, the privacy of it all. It's like, oh God, okay, we fucking get it. But that reaction alone doesn't do anything to me or for me. But the discussion of what this Group 78 thing is supposedly doing makes no fucking sense, right? Like, if this is how you're going to do it, if this is how you are trying to do it, that's not how you do this. Like, that's not how you're successful at this. If anything,
this is normal though. This kind of hack and leak disruption, extra legal kind of, this has become a normal part. I mean, we're starting to see it with the Kitten Busters leak that's happening. I mean, I'm just talking generally.
But dude, you're talking about a U.S. law enforcement officer walking into a government, a multilateral forum, and saying that there's nothing normal about that at all. Like, what? Like, that's,
you don't
that
think the FBI goes to conferences and privately TLP Black says that we've been doing this thing in the back? Come on, this happened.
You are equating things that kind of look the same, but that things that aren't the same, right? Like when a law enforcement officer in a multilateral forum says some shit, it's, there is a certain amount of like vetting and whatever. It's one thing if you tell me that some FBI officer went on a private stage in a private threat intel conference and said, "Oh, here's a few things we found that you guys might want to work on." You're like, "Okay, cool. This is actionable," and you're trying your best to make it work. That's not what this is. Somebody walked into a multilateral meeting and said, "We're doing some like badass cowboy shit," and everybody went, "What the fuck are you talking about? You are the cops. You are the fucking law enforcement officers. You can't be like, yo, fuck the law," right? Like it doesn't come off right. But then again, there's just so many. This sounds like there's just a web of fucking telephone happening, and probably a lot of bluster and a lot of, making things seem 1,000 feet tall when they're in, probably in a molehill.
Right.
I don't know.
Group 78, keep that in mind. Keep that in your notebooks. Costin, you remember when Dave Vitale was on the show, you asked him if Aardvark was capable of doing smart contract auditing, security auditings, and so on. I was fascinated. Question stayed in my head. Anthropic drops a report that says, hey, we're doing this. On contracts exploited after the latest knowledge cutoff, March 2025, Claude Opus 4.5, Sonnet 4.5, and GT5 is collectively worth $4.6 million, establishing a concrete lower bound for the economic harm world. So they're saying they're tinkering here and playing with this, and there's some big value. And what did you make of this report? As you're our AI Magic Money correspondent.
Dude,
what are they saying?
Costin, come on, man.
Making like a drama pause. I mean, you guys were asking like a lot of theoretical questions, and I was like more on the practical side with Dave. I mean, how do you use this thing in practice? Like, I'm interested about the practical use of AI, about the practical use of models that can actually make your code safer. In the end, like we already know that AI is making your code unsafe. Like, this is like it's a given thing that AI will introduce bugs in your code. It will make it from some points of view safer, but at the same time introducing unexpected pathways, things that will happen and eventually will turn into discovered vulnerabilities. So from the point of view of finding bugs, I was thinking that these tools like Aardvark, like this system, should be able to catch vulnerabilities in smart contracts pretty easily. They should be very good at this. And why? Because this is a pretty big market. There's a lot of companies out there. I think we were talking even about Trail of Bits, right, in the past, that is doing smart contracts auditing, like pen testing, if you want, in this sphere, finding bugs before the North Koreans come, and with their collective minds they hack the shit out of it, and then they steal hundreds of millions of your money or other people's money who trusted those smart contracts in the first place. So it's good to see that actually it works. It's good to see that people put it to good work. And we just saw the deployment of a new version on the Ethereum ecosystem just a few days ago, and it's good that nothing wrong happened, nothing bad happened. I think it's important that if you care about cybersecurity in the blockchain sphere, it's important that you do auditing of smart contracts, and having the right tools, it helps and makes a difference between getting owned and not getting owned.
And the research paper from Anthropic Fellows program is that, in a nutshell, they were able to prove that the AI agents find about 4.6 million in blockchain smart contract exploits. This is the kind of like no-brainer places you should be pushing this AI research, Juan.
I mean, absolutely. Absolutely, because the AI the smart contract side of the house, like the fact that people are willing to trust this stuff with money, like real money of some sort, is insane to me. But what I'm curious about is like, is this just like a scoped project that they put some energy into? Because obviously there's money, it's flashy, you can basically use it as a good proof of the value of what you're supposedly doing. Or are smart contracts particularly exploitable? Because like, why is that the thing that these things are excelling at creating, like popping out odes for, and not as much these other, I mean, look, Big Sleep is coming out, like there was like some iOS stuff reported by Big Sleep recently. Obviously Aardvark's finding stuff, like you have people that are finding bugs, but this is the sense I'm getting is much more talk of like a proper exploit sort of being popped out of these. Costin, is that right? Like I went through the report, but are we? This isn't like, oh, we found like a double free, right? Like you left a little bug in there, bro. You should go fix it. Like it sounds like it's like the thing is borked, right?
Yeah, I guess it's more in the sense that yeah, here's a confirmation that AI is getting better at everything. And in particular, if you know how to prompt it, it's definitely getting better at finding bugs in smart contracts. And I think, of course, the other side of the coin here would be to understand how much the North Korean Lazarus Blue Norov guys are using AI to find bugs and exploit smart contracts. How much of that they are doing at the moment? I mean, like right now.
They have to be doing that, right? I mean, this is their wheelhouse.
Yeah, for sure. If according to Anthropic, the Chinese are using AI to automate their intrusions, I would say that it's highly unlikely that the North Koreans are not using AI to try to exploit smart contracts. And I mean, yeah, there's news of smart contracts being exploited all the time. At some point, you don't even know exactly how it was done, how the bug was found, but like the amount of news in that field is typically pretty significant.
Yeah, in tandem with news that Lazarus, North Korea, did a $30 million theft from South Korea's largest crypto exchange, is Upbit. We had our buddy Sang-Shu tweeting about Upbit confirming a major security breach, 39 million in Solana-based assets. These things are so dime a dozen these days that it barely registers as a blip, right?
Pocket money.
Question for you though, right? When you talk about AI doing smart contract auditing, are you looking to the AI to think differently and approach it completely in a new way that humans aren't capable of thinking of? Or is that the ability to scale and do things faster and do things that more? Help me understand what you're hoping that the AI brings to the table.
I think just, assuming that the bad guys are using AI already to find bugs in smart contracts, it makes sense to first use AI on your side to find all the bugs, at least to fix and patch all the bugs that the AI can find. So the low-hanging fruit is suddenly no longer available to the bad guys. So that's kind of establishing, if you want, establishing a baseline. Beyond the baseline, considering that, as I say, you put a lot of time, resources, tokens, whatever, analyzing smart contracts, I think it would be nice to have some kind of a certification mechanism. Like, I don't know, we use this model and spend this many tokens to try to ensure that it operates as expected and there are like no hidden pathways. That alone by itself probably would help raise confidence in this technology, which to me is important. So the expectations from my side would be more in the line of raising the baseline, making smart contracts safer by default, and potentially creating some kind of seals or certifications or things that people can for transparency reasons and reports, they can show on their websites, whatever.
Oh, you want a badge? You want a pledge and a badge?
I want the pledge and the badge, but not like this fake one where like the CISO cuts the queue and gets in front for a photo. but I want the one that is driven by AI and it's got like the signature from the AI, whatever that. Yeah, they spent 5 million tokens and everything that was found was patched, and this is what they found.
Hey, there's some folks planting a flag in the ground. The folks at Expo, which is a hotshot AI security company that has Nico Wiseman as their CISO, just this week saying, listen, we're willing to plant our flag in the ground and say, use our product. If we don't find something, you don't pay anything. I feel there's like, there might be some fine print there.
Shit.
There might be some fine print there, but those guys have nailed the marketing. They nailed the marketing and getting on the HackerOne leaderboard. And again, this is kind of like, here's a use it for free, and I guarantee you that our AI is going to find some. They're dabbling in the web app space. Why do you think it's genius, Juanito?
I mean, it's fucking brilliant, man. Like you have to. So, okay, from the perspective of a consumer, there's no reason that you really would decide to go for a newfangled AI pen testing company as opposed to a well-known existing red teaming shop, right? Like, okay, you're doing it with AI. It just sounds like it's cheaper for you and experimental. Why, cutting edge isn't necessarily the most desirable thing in that like checkbox ticking exercise. But when somebody gives you a financial incentive to try, like they took all the risk out of the fucking equation, just, give us a try. And like, it's the same thing as like when Halvar and Sean Heelan had optimized. And my understanding,
yeah, I love that business model.
Yeah, I just heard it through the grapevine. It was like we'll take a portion of like the money
whatever
we save
you for you. Yeah, that was the original pitch that
genius.
I really loved. I mean, they had to move away from it because it was difficult, but the idea was use our product. I guarantee you we'll save you $1 million. Give us half of that. So you take 500,000. Give me the other 500,000. I guarantee you I'll save you $1 million, which was fascinating to me.
So I love seeing it because this is the kind of stuff that people are missing in order to make shit impactful. Like the traditionalist mindset around products is not vibing well with AI as a powerful force undergirding the system, because if what you're telling people is this makes things cheaper, but you don't translate that into the business model, then why do people buy your version as opposed to buying the tried and true one that they are already comfortable with? But if you tell me that it's cheaper for you, which means that you make it not just cheaper for me, but that you radically shift the quality or the output that I'm getting, or you use those, the money that it's saving you or the automation that you've built to then translate that into a different, kind of transaction altogether, then you have a motivation to actually pick this up. So I think this shit is genius. I wish Nico all the best with this. And look, we'll see, right? Like this is putting your money where your mouth is.
Man, they're in the VC. They're in the VC cauldron. So best of luck to those guys. Let's close the show quickly with some shout outs. With the hour and a half mark. Costin has to get out of here. Costin, you want to go first?
I mean, sure. I think this week we found out that a good friend of mine, Veselin Banchev, out of Bulgaria, is going through some a tough period of his life. He's been diagnosed with cancer, so sending
aggressive prostate cancer, right?
Yeah, unfortunately, but sending all the possible good vibes to Ves. I'm still positive about this because my father-in-law has been going through something similar, and with the right treatment, his cancers got much better. And a doctor actually said that he will pass away eventually, but not because of the cancer itself. So for Ves, I just want to send like some strong thoughts of support, some good vibes, and
for members of the audience that don't know who Ves is, it's an old school antivirus guy. I mean, I met him at Virus Bulletin conferences many, many years ago. He's a little bit of a curmudgeon, but a deep roots in our AV industry from the old days, right, Costin?
Yeah, I mean, he's been around since the beginning, very beginning, and the guy has always been very, how to say, tough on mistakes. One thing he couldn't tolerate idiots and morons. He had like a very low tolerance for that, very low tolerance for bureaucracy.
Oh, well, that's what I was going to mention. A good point you made here, because he wrote a big, long essay about his current circumstances, and it describes months and months of like misdiagnosis, bureaucratic this, conflicting medical advice, some therapy that may not work. And he wrote it in a very like
easy way.
It
right?
wasn't dark. It wasn't too dark. It was tough to read. Obviously, it was tough to read.
I wouldn't, you know.
It was kind of heartbreaking, and he keeps caring for his frail mother, and there's not many people in his life and so on, and navigating this system. But it comes across as a very, very human document to leave behind it. I don't know. Vess, I never got to know him personally. I know about him, and I know I've read all his work and kind of followed him over the years. So I mean, I double what Costin is saying. Best of luck, and the best of vibes.
I never met Vess, but to me, when I kicked off in the industry, he was one of those guys on Twitter that you just like, if he like so much as like smiled your way, you're like, oh my God, I fucking made it in my career. Because if you fucked up, you fucked up even by like a fucking inch, like Vess was gonna just come in and like, he was right. It's fine. Like it was like this kind of forcing function of that old school stuff. So I don't know, man. Like I think we've all had family members who dealt with prostate cancer. Like cancer itself is kind of this terrifying, awful thing, but prostate cancer is pretty manageable. Like a lot of people, like my grandfather included, right? Like you can take care of it and hopefully continue to enjoy life and to stay here with us. So all the best to our I wanted to say our friend. I've never met the man, but have a lot of respect for him. So
shout out to Vess. And the other thing I noticed this week is Halvar. You mentioned Halvar. Halvar and a bunch of old school hackers wrote an obit eulogy to an old school hacker and Frack staff member Sebastian. Hacker handle Stealth that passed away. Apparently, he's passed away this week. Again, I didn't know of him. I knew of him. I had heard and seen photos and stuff over the years. He was a close friend to a lot of people who I consider friends, and that's another passage of time kind of thing for all of us as we get older, I guess. I don't know. Some shout-outs from your side, Juanito? Sorry, Costin.
By the way, I just wanted to say there's a fantastic story about how Stealth was doing like an SSH man in the middle at a conference. When people are trying to do SSH, he was like, just hijacking the connection, forcing the protocol down to V1 and doing this man in the middle to essentially steal people's things, secrets. And this resonates with me so well, especially when there's people who talk about like, you don't need the VPN, like when you're at the wherever, like use a public Wi-Fi, stop worrying about the VPNs. Just go, if you hear any of those things, just go and read this story because it tells you so much. Like I said, I've seen so many people got on at conferences using public Wi-Fi without VPNs. So I thought it was a fantastic story.
Shout out to Stealth, shout out to his family, shout out to all his friends dealing with this.
Since we're on this topic, and I don't know, I don't want it to be uncouth, but there's an amazing book by the late Ernst Becker called The Denial of Death. And it's a phenomenal tour de force by somebody who was on actually late stage cancer, who'd been a psychoanalyst and a Buddhist, and he's kind of just facing face first, this notion of inevitable death, which as for those of us who've ever enjoyed Heidegger, it's at least considered that like when a human being considers their mortality is the time when they're engaging with authenticity as opposed to anything else in our lives, right? Like that idea that we're going to be here forever is like the heart of inauthentic thinking. So it's a phenomenal book and a good reminder to use what life we've got to do meaningful things and quit treading water.
Let me just end the show on a more lighter note. Juanito, I noticed Spotify Wrapped drop this week for Spotify users, and we've had a bunch
Oh
of
my
Spotify
God.
users post their minutes and how much time they've been listening to the show. It's been pretty fascinating. But I must mention, you've been selling Apple in China books, because the number one books read by the entire Three Body Problem audience on Spotify, their next highest read thing was Apple in China. So now that you mentioned a new book, The Denial of Death, you might be selling some products there. My shout out is to all the Spotify audience. We have an active, live, pretty significant audience on Spotify that I did not know about.
We didn't
know. They don't share.
Yeah.
Spotify doesn't share numbers, but apparently over the last year, we've grown, 366% year over year, 1.1 million minutes listened. I don't know how these people expect to get those minutes back, but here we are. My shout out is to the audience all over on all platforms. YouTube, we have a bunch of people growing on YouTube, on Apple Podcasts, on Spotify, wherever you listen to the show. Shout out to you. Thank you for listening to us during the course of the year. Next year promises to be even more fun.
Yo,
Last words, guys.
We're gonna start a fucking book club. It's gonna be
coming.
our Oprah version, where we just like put the sticker on it. Yeah.
Yeah, let us know if you want us to give you more book recommendations, like what Juan has been reading this week, things like that. Let us know in the comments.
Absolutely. And with that, that's our show for this week. Thanks, everyone. Have yourselves a great week, guys. We'll talk next week.
Take care, guys.
Ciao.